No Man's Sky accomplished arguably gaming's biggest comeback a while ago, and Hello Games, the small developer behind that game, continue improving and expanding on that game to millions of players. What Sean Murray and his team have been able to do is or was unprecedented at the time, but now it feels like in this current live service age, game comebacks are happening more often. But it's definitely not always a guarantee like some may make you believe. No Man's Sky, when it launched all the way back in late 2016, it was riddled in controversy with players who felt betrayed and misled taking their frustrations to social media sites. Games media rightfully criticized the lackluster state of the game and pointed out all of the missing promised features. Players took it a step further, composing long lists full of various promised features that were not in the game and demanded answers and also government investigations into false advertising. Meanwhile, during this disastrous launch, Sean Murray and his Hello Games team decided to go dark and work on improving the game. About 3 years later, I would say Hello Games has done more than enough with supporting and really reviving this game, leading by example by creating massive updates with zero microtransactions, something that you don't really ever see. Now, while No Man's Sky has turned it around, it really feels like it was just the beginning of this polarizing live service age in which many much larger game studios are releasing rushed, unfinished, buggy $60 rubbish with the promise that things will improve eventually. Games like Activision's Black Ops 4, BioWare's Anthem, and Bethesda's Fallout 76 are just some of those that fall into that category. Well, anyway, recently Hello Games' Sean Murray gave his thoughts on this polarizing live service age and had a similar "it's not how you start, it's what it becomes" defense that Todd Howard actually made just over a month ago. Today we're going to be taking a look at Sean Murray's full comments which feel or are a defense of these controversial live service games, which at launch have almost all been hit by a lot of angry consumers and critical reception. But as usual, if you have not already, do consider subscribing for all the latest gaming news and turn notifications on so you do not miss out on any new content. So I think it's important that before I get to Sean Murray's comments that I emphasize that No Man's Sky has evolved into something amazing that a lot of people enjoy, but there were a lot of mistakes made, particularly with marketing and communication, that I think is foolish to forget, largely because you would have hoped this gaming industry learned from the mistakes made with No Man's Sky, but that's not what has happened. The mistakes made are continuing to be made by gaming's biggest developers, and I would say the problems are getting worse with executives purposefully launching $60 live service experiences that are not ready, with the expectation that they'll just, improve it with time. No Man's Sky is not a live service experience as it doesn't include microtransactions or charge for new content and updates in any way, but it is often the game people reference when talking about what divisive games like Fallout 76 or even Anthem could evolve into. Recently, Sean Murray, the founder of Hello Games, spoke with GamesIndustry.biz about the current state of No Man's Sky, the rough launch, and the rise in polarizing games. First, we'll go over his thoughts on how games like Anthem and Fallout 76 don't deserve the backlash that they have received. All games that had maybe a lukewarm launch or were announced dead on arrival, I think there was way too much emphasis from all of us as an industry on day one sales and the heat of the community reaction, and far less on what the long-term impact of these games are and what the plans for them are. We want as an industry to do crazy, silly, ambitious things. Sure, we're critical of things that come out and we're not happy when it's fair to not be happy, when things aren't what we wanted them to be, but we also need to have that patience with ambitious things and to support them because that's what we want from the industry. Well, you know what I want from this industry? This AAA gaming industry, complete games day one, with what's advertised in the actual game when it's released, when it's being sold to me for money. I really can't understand why that's such a difficult task. I spoke privately with a Bethesda Game Studios employee recently who told me the company was rushing to release with Fallout 76, a game that could have included more innovative features and ideas, but it would cost more and take too much time, which didn't fit with what leadership wanted. It's clear Sean Murray has been passionate about No Man's Sky and righting his company's wrong, something that he's lucky he gets because Hello Games is a private indie developer that doesn't need to appease investors who only want to see more money and continuing growth. Unlike these massive AAA game companies, Hello Games could not just move on. No matter what, they had to fix No Man's Sky, because if they did not, just imagine the publicity nightmare they'd face with their next game and moving forward. But many of these larger game corporations, from the Electronic Arts to the Activision Blizzards, aren't caring about delivering ambitious games. They want the most profitable games. Sure, the developers are likely passionate, but the executives could care less, and they ultimately are the ones making the decisions and pulling the strings. What I find really interesting about this response made by Sean is that he repeats something Bethesda's Todd Howard said recently about Fallout 76.
We knew that going into this. We knew it's not that, right?
Yeah.
You would say, look, this isn't a game, even from the beginning, this is not going to be like, high Metacritic game. That's not what this is, given what it is. But we felt strongly this is a game we want to play. This is something we really want to do. And all of the games like this, whether it's us or somebody else, you can go back and look at them. There's a period once you launch. It's not how you launch, it's what it becomes.
Look, my issue with games like No Man's Sky, Anthem, and Fallout 76 is all the marketing or comments pre-release that made the game appear as something else. One good example I can bring up is with BioWare's Anthem, in which GM Casey Hudson described the game at E3 2018 this way.
I just want to be able to continue the legacy of the studio, and that's kind of where it started with Anthem, is just thinking about what is the evolution of a BioWare game? And we wanted to create a brand new world for people to discover, a whole new world of story and character. But we also wanted to do something that was, more of a dynamic and living world, a game that would change every time you came back and played it. We also wanted to do something where, if you wanted to invite your friends into it, then you could do that as well. So that was really the initial vision of the game, not an MMO, not a multiplayer game with story sort of bolted on this side, but something new and different, and I think the team has really captured that vision over the years.
What players unfortunately found out on release day was that Anthem's story was pretty much stapled on the side, and lackluster, might I add, compared to previous BioWare entries. In a later Kotaku investigation, it would be uncovered that nearly the entire development of Anthem was just a gigantic mess, with the E3 2017 gameplay trailer almost being entirely faked and really being more of a vision of what BioWare wanted to create. Of course, this tale is somewhat the same to an extent with other games like Black Ops 4, Battlefield 5, Fallout 76, and No Man's Sky at launch. When a game developer or whoever speaking on behalf of a game studio says or shows something being one way, I think it probably needs to be that way come release day when I'm spending $60 on this product, or sometimes more, not maybe a few years from now. It really isn't difficult to be transparent with consumers before release. That's a decision. And if you choose to lie, I think the gaming community is right to react with anger. Heck, some of these live service games are breaking promises long after release in regards to, well, monetization. This is what Patience got Fallout 76 players, and I mean, it could have been worse based on what players uncovered in the game's code, but thankfully, due to Outrage, it appears that original plan was cancelled. Now, Sean Murray would continue reflecting on the aftermath of No Man's Sky's impact on this gaming industry. I think we were right on the cusp, and this was only 3 years ago, of that really intense polarizing reaction that is seen commonly now. It feels like there's a game every 3 months that will have that. I don't know that we now have the rules on how to deal with that, but it is really nice that people will reference us as the kind of benchmark. When I set up Hello Games, I always dreamed of being mentioned in the same sentence as Bethesda. This is not exactly the circumstances I wanted that to happen in, but I'll take it. I'll always delight in someone asking how Bethesda can learn from Hello Games. Actually, all the way back in November 2018, a week after launch, I asked that question and gave my thoughts on how Bethesda could quote-unquote No Man's Sky Fallout 76. In that video, I highlighted the need for human NPCs and the introduction of maybe 2 rival factions, the need for PvP that really doesn't have restriction and increases tension when exploring, not knowing if a player is a friend or a foe, and lastly, mod support ASAP. So far, Bethesda has actually done 2 of those things that I felt was needed, but with any of these rough launches, I emphasize that first impressions do matter, and no matter what, people will not and should not forget how things started. This industry should be learning from mistakes, but nope. It just keeps repeating. It's not like this is a trap developers are falling for, they just are not learning. It feels like there's a game every 3 months getting a divisive reaction because there is, and that's the problem. It also should be mentioned, those games almost all the time are live service experiences. But days ago, another part of GamesIndustry.biz's interview with Sean Murray was released, because I guess there was another one. Anyway, Sean Murray actually gave his opinion on what game companies like Electronic Arts and Bethesda should have done upon release when gamers were clearly not happy with the day one products of games like Fallout 76 and Anthem. I can see EA or Microsoft or whoever try to placate players by talking to them, and for right or wrong, it just doesn't really work. We probably did the right thing, and not talking to the press is easy because I don't really enjoy it. It's not a thing I got into games to do, and I don't think I'm particularly good at it. Well, not really. So it was kind of an easy answer there. I'm never sure whether it was the right thing or it just really appealed. I mean, before launch, before all the controversy, Sean certainly did enjoy talking to much of the press, or at the very least, it appeared that way. Everyone was ecstatic. No Man's Sky's trailers were reaching millions of views, and what went wrong was expectations were not managed, and Sean Murray unfortunately did mislead a lot of people. But I will say I do take issue with this belief that all game developers should just be quiet, not communicate with players and work on new content. You could make an argument that the regular communication Bethesda has had with their community since the launch of Fallout 76 is why there is loyal players sticking around. With BioWare's Anthem, they clearly decided communication was not the route they wanted to take soon after launch because players rightfully called out the BS, and now there practically is nobody at all playing or talking about Anthem. Even right now, there is an expectation that a big content update is coming, but because BioWare has gone dark, there's a lot of people wondering or thinking that one morning they will see a news story on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, or whatever, announcing Electronic Arts has pulled the remaining resources on Anthem and moved on. The problem is the PR speak in lies in communication to already frustrated players. The answer isn't let's just go dark, the answer is let's be honest and understanding with those loyal players and communication. At least that's what I think should be happening. Nintendo earlier this year had a very transparent video announcing Metroid Prime 4 would be rebooted. The reaction was not anger, it was understanding. So there are a few more remarks made by Sean Murray that I do want to discuss, and this is in regards specifically to No Man's Sky. Sean discusses the excitement before launch and how they, I guess, didn't realize people were taking their word on things. You don't realize as a developer that you're talking to millions of people when you do something like E3, and most people who buy your game have only ever seen one video, and they've probably only seen 30 seconds of it. It's very hard to tell the difference between you talking excitedly about the game because you are excited and the people you're talking to are excited, and you're talking about development, and that's what we're all used to doing. And he would also say that he felt we knew it was going to be polarizing. We knew that wasn't going to be an experience for everyone. When we released No Man's Sky, and in fact when we first started talking about it, I thought we were making a pretty niche game, and I continued to think that for a long time. A lot of the design decisions we made were for a niche game. It turned out to be a really large niche. This actually again goes back to Todd Howard's remarks on Fallout 76, in which he said they knew it wouldn't be a high Metacritic game, and it wasn't for everybody. My response is, why didn't I see that in interviews or marketing before release? Of course, honesty could cost sales, but it would have managed expectations better, and I have to believe the reception would not have been as negative. Also, getting excited for a game is great, but I don't believe for a second this was shown as a niche title. Sean Murray was on Stephen Colbert promoting the game. Trailers for the game have millions of views. This is the mistake Hello Games made and why communication is so important before release, and also probably why having a PR department is, important. Finally though, to the last remark made by Sean Murray that I want to go over is how there was positive stories about No Man's Sky even right after launch, but they just didn't do as well, and that's a problem. It prompted Hello Games to look past the press as a way to address its issues and focus on the real purity of speaking to its players through the game. Or you could just, put out honest statements about how you understand player frustration and are working on improving the game, not just going dark, making many believe you abandoned your game. I mean, there was actual rumors saying that they abandoned the game at the time. Hello Games intentionally or not lied about a lot of the aspects of No Man's Sky before release, leading to unrealistic expectations and probably higher sales, which led to massive backlash. A lot of people felt screwed at launch, and of course games media were going to cover all the broken promises and the disappointing state of the game, most negative stories. That's been the same with all of these controversial live service experiences. That's actually really how news has always been, with drama thriving over how Timmy taught his dog to talk. The best way to describe No Man's Sky before launch is you telling your partner that you plan to take them out on a date of a lifetime, promising something so unique, something no one has ever done before. And what it turned out to be was a date night at good old Denny's. Of course, the reaction from your partner is not going to be, well, at least the pancakes were good. Sean Murray should have just been more honest with what the game was before release, not giving definitive answers about basic features like if you can see another player or not was the problem.
You ever get a good look at your character?
You can see other characters, and they could see you.
And why so many were angry and felt deceived. But No Man's Sky's legacy does live on, and what's unfortunate is that the mistakes made in 2016 are continuing to be made, but on a much larger scale. It really just sucks how often I hear people asking if game developers or studios can No Man's Sky the train wreck that they delivered. That's the problem that needs to change, but with greedy executives like Bobby Kotick and Andrew Wilson in charge only caring about monetization, I doubt these debacles will be slowing down anytime soon. Anyway, what do you make of Sean Murray's defense and opinion on divisive games like Fallout 76 and Anthem? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also, check out my Discord for all sorts of conversation on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.